Media, medio. Have with me this meaty stew. I'm host Eric, and I'm the host of the world's most underappreciated television program, Talking with Famous People. Well, something kind of ESFP-esque about Eric and his continual doing of things to no effect. You are the first famous person here, the last famous person here, and every famous person in between. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Exactly what I wanted to talk about. Morning, it's 11:06 p.m. It's not even hardly afternoon yet. I'm watching a lot of FI media today. Namely, so this show regarding Zero starting life over in another world. Regarding Zero starting life in another world is what it's called. It's an anime show. And oh dude, Jesus Christ, the FI in it is intense. It makes it a very intense show. There's a lot of scenes about weighing on the current events. I mean, it's very Jacksonian. The whole scene, this whole travesty is the modern incarnation of Andrew Jackson. The Jacksonian Democrats and the Jacksonian presidency was very much reminiscent of the Trump presidency. Now, Jackson got his face on a $20 bill, but if you assess his actual behavior as a president, he was assuredly the worst president until Trump. His appalling disregard for the balance of powers, checks and balances, stuff like that. It's the rejection of meaning in favor of action. You know, the thing is, people are making more of a big deal of the current events than perhaps they need to. And in no way, shape, or form, Andrew Jackson was the Trail of Tears president. He was the people's president, you know. He threw a big party for his inauguration in which all the random people came and got shit-faced and trashed the White House. That's how Andrew Jackson started his presidency. Andrew Jackson is the only example I can think of since, say, John Adams or so, to just openly and successfully defy the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court said, you may not move those Indians. He said, they moved them anyway. Yeah, you're probably thinking of Jefferson. Andrew Jackson's the guy on the $20 bill. He was a terrible president. I'm gonna, you know, if Trump was Jackson, I'm Polk. Polk was an excellent president. One term, excellent president. If I could be if I could end up viewed as favorably by historians as James K. Polk, I feel like I had done a hell of a job as president. I mean, there's someone I wouldn't mind chilling with. You know, if you talk about like what historical figure do you want to have over for dinner, I wouldn't mind chilling with James K. Polk. Trump is an ESFP. He is as ESFP as they get. And you can see from the most, what's that word that means unknown? Like obscure. From the most obscure random college kid to the president of the United States, all ESFPs are the same. You should aspire to be like Calvin Coolidge, but party like Jackson. Well, I mean, the thing is, Mackenzie, part of it has to do with Trump, right? Trump is saying, is both being an ESFP, he's not just being an ESFP, he's president as ESFP, he's actively promoting ESFP style values and thinking, and it's compelling me time and again, as do other ESFPs who I encounter around here. They compel me time and again to not deal with them as regular human beings. I shit you not. I don't know what else to say. Am I being an ESFP bigot? I'm not saying this about ENFPs. ENFPs I can get along with fine. A lot of ENFPs I get along with. But ESFPs will come in here and shit on my pillow until I kick them out. So the thing is, it's like, the problem I have is not that I am biased against ESFPs. The problem I have is that I'm not biased against ESFPs. I mean, that's the reality of it. It's like, I'm learning that I need to be biased against ESFPs because, you know, they're no good for me at all. Nothing good happens when an ESFP and I come into contact. Ever. As far as I can tell. The reason, I can explain it cognitively. Well, it's as simple as this. First of all, we share no values. So my absolute values are NE, FE, NI, and FI. Their absolute values are SE, SI, TE, and TE and TI. So it's like for them, TI is only experiencing an absolute value, which means they don't expect to be held accountable to it at all. They just like it when things make sense, or when people TI validate something for them, you know, and say, yes, that makes sense. They like to be able to point to contradictions. It's as deep as their TI gets. You said it was going to rain on Tuesday, but it's not raining. It's something an ESFP might say. But that's as deep as their TI gets, right? It's like, Eric, you said meh, 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 but now you say meh, meh, meh. They'll be able to notice some things that are contradictory or appear contradictory. But they don't use it at all to do any sort of meaningful work in the world. And that makes it impossible to deal with them if you're engaged in something like this, which is very much a language-based engagement where words have to mean things and be parsed out to mean things. And, you know, it's like if you come back day after day, what you said a few days ago matters still today. So if you say something totally contradicts yourself, you know, that quality, you carry that around with you, and you can either, you know, resolve those contradictions, or you can just continue to throw trash in your backseat. You know, eventually you got to clean out your backseat of your car. Your whole car gets filled up with trash. Well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, what ESFPs do is go through life filling up their car with trash all the time. And it spills out onto me a lot of times. Right. They can't. They're not capable of it. Of logic. They cannot apply logical consistency to themselves. They can only experience it. It's like they can sort of like if they treat consistency like it were a rock they can throw. Like, hey, look, there's a rock. You said, man, this seems different than that, so I'm going to throw the rock. Ignoring the fact that you just finished saying, throwing rocks is bad, or something like that, Right. Well, the problem is, the conflict I have with them is that number one, remember, I don't seek them out to engage with, but they typically end up here engaging with me, seeking out to engage with me, and for a while until they just break, But number two, it's not really fair for me to say that because I do, quote unquote, seek them out when I type police them, and of course, there's going to be a higher percentage of people who are in type jail who are ESFPs than any other type because almost every ESFP is going to be wrong with their type. Very few people self-identify as ESFP. I mean, for this little era of talking with famous people, he's the most famous ESFP of all. Era of like 4 years ago, people would be like, Courtney will be the most famous ESFP forever. She did way more damage than Cloud ever managed to do. That was my first encounter with one. I didn't realize just how completely words didn't mean anything to them, and they were just fundamentally untrustworthy, in that regard. If you expect their words to mean things. After that, a later group would have said, no, Chloe's the most famous ESFP of all time. She's the one who got they've done damage to me. They're the only people who genuinely damaged me. Chloe managed to get the Raw channel banned and cost me countless thousands of hours of content. Just poof, gone. Because she wouldn't obey or conform to the instruction, stop dropping intentionally just to be trolly copyrighted shit that gets me in trouble into the raw room. Eventually it's going to get me banned. I think they particularly butt heads with the ENTPs. The reason they butt heads with us, of course, is because we have the exactly conflicting strategy towards dealing with the world, which is my strategy is create the map such that it validates universally and you can reliably anticipate what the territory is going to be. And their strategy is fuck the map and it will never lead you astray. It's like, I'm going to keep saying, but this map is valid. And they keep going, fuck the map, and you'll never be led astray by it. Trust the map, and you're guaranteed to be led astray by it at least once. Because lots of things in life can't be put into words and can't be put into boxes. If ESFPs cannot apply logical consistency towards themselves, does this mean they would have an extremely hard, pretty much impossible time of consciously convincing others they are another type? Well, this is the frustrating thing for ESFPs, is they're both unable to accept the reality that this map subsumes their experience. In other words, they just can't not accept that, in fact, the map's right and their experience is wrong. Their feelings, their whatever. And what was I answering? Oh, they also have demonstrative FE. So ESFPs are incredibly, like, they make you drop your jaw sometimes, okay? So let me talk about relate the story that Rachel told me when she was in college, and her ESFP roommate said somebody basically had said that she's not deep. She's not like a philosophically minded person or something. And the ESFP girl stormed home and said, Rachel, this person says I'm not deep and philosophical. What's like a song or something deep and philosophical I could use to prove that I'm deep and philosophical? It's just like, how come there's not smoke coming out of your ears? Your brain cannot tolerate the stress you're putting it through. The amount of G's that you're forcing your brain to endure trying to sustain this kind of crazy nonsense is must be it's inconceivable to me, But of course, that's because I'm not that personality type. The thing is, of course, if we were in a different world, if we were in a different space, then it would be a different experience, right? What role does FI play in an INFJ, Mr. ENTP? Well, it's like this. Because an INFJ has FE as their tool function, this means two things. They see instrumentality in their interface function. So extroverted feeling is not in and of itself an absolute value, and neither is introverted feeling. But being able to effectively move through the world using your tool function works kind of like an absolute value. And the 6 slot function is the thing that, since you're expecting it of everybody else, that you understand you have to provide reciprocally, but that you'd rather the other party do all of that. So for me, it's TE and TI. For an INFJ, it's FE and FI, which is to say, the INFJ's basic strategy is I will be a still pond, simply reflecting back to this person what they'd like to have reflected back to them, making them comfortable until they reveal who they actually are. And then and only then will I look to my own feelings to decide whether I like this person. How can I like this person until I know which pattern this person is representative of? But of course, reality often doesn't allow the INFJ to set the terms on the FI thing. So if somebody is trying to cross an INFJ's boundaries and the INFJ is giving them subtle, deft social cues and the other party is not picking up on those cues, then the INFJ is going to have to express their FI. I don't like this. Please stop. That's very uncomfortable for the INFJ. And additionally, they understand that part of maintaining their relational dynamics between them and the various people in their lives requires them to take on the role of the person who is delighted by something, for example, or who is the recipient rather than the giver. FE third with FI tool, in contrast, means one of my areas of weakness, so to speak, is that I never want to be beholden to anybody. So I always want to be the guy who buys dinner. I never want to be the guy who has dinner bought for him. I always want to, because my basic underlying theory is that I have no inherent value, and that if I've been very useful to lots of people, in terms of like I'm more giving, then if I have a need to call upon others, they'll feel beholden to help me. In other words, I'm relying on their FE, not their FI, to assure myself of a sound position within a community of some sort. That, of course, is, I guess you'd say, a symptom of FI polar. That fundamentally ESTPs and ENTPs don't get what it means for other people to find them precious. And they never really will. Because they don't necessarily find other people precious per se themselves, although they do, but they're slow to recognize it. What's going on in America right now? Nothing really. It's being overblown, in my opinion. Obviously, there was a kerfuffle of some sort in the Washington D.C. area, and the certification of the election got put off a day or two. But I don't think it's going to amount to anything. The only thing it'll possibly amount to is arrests and incarcerations and prosecutions and stuff. The thing is, it is different for ESTP and ENTP. And the reason that they're different is because ENTP is an SI type. So it's like I continually have to explain to Rachel that the reason that there's no chance that I'll ever leave her or anything, or outgrow her, or want to trade her in for a new model or something, is because I'm an SI user. The longer I spend with her, the more invested I feel in this person, and the more loss I would feel if I were to lose her. Even though it's not an FI thing, because my FI is an absolute value, I don't use it to understand the world at all. Harry Balzac. One of the most unfortunate things is when somebody can't troll interestingly. It's like, the thing is, if you're going to come in and troll, you're already saying, okay, I'm kamikazing here, right? So say something interesting. It's just like, come on, dude. Yeah, be smarter. Don't be so boring in your dumbness, If you're gonna put information on the metaphysical field, you got a high standard to meet, It's like you're competing against the words that I'm saying, the words that other people are saying here, for interestingness, and yours are just utterly, just so weak. It's like you're kind of like a blustery toddler. Be dumb smartly. Exactly. Thank you, Scott. You're well put. Well said. What values of media do you want to address? Well, I was just saying that it's no, I'm not saying that. I didn't say that. I said specifically, if you're trolling, then you're conceding initially. Sky Gear is not an ESFP, he's an INTP who's fucking around. Don't let him fool you for 1 second. So specifically what I was thinking about when I made that title was the way that the different animes that I've been watching reflect upon their creators, certain kinds of values. So thing is, I just finished watching the first 24 episodes of Dr. Stone. If you've never seen Dr. Stone, it's got an interesting wicked. I've been around Sky Gear longer than you have, apparently. Sky Gear has actually been quite committed to this ESFP meta joke he's playing for quite some time now, but for a long time at the beginning, he was explicitly an INTP. And why does he always try to expose me? Because I don't think it's funny. I do kind of think it's funny, but not that funny. Because you're just fooling people. There's nothing good about fooling people. Disinformation as a way of catching on, you see? Subscribe to Secrecy Magazine. We definitely sell your data. Yeah, but it's confusing to people, right? Well, I met an ESFP who seemed smart the other day, says somebody, Eric's full of shit. There's this guy named Skyger on his own channel, the ESFP. And he says all kinds of intelligent and clever and funny things. So obviously Eric's full of shit. He doesn't even recognize this ESFP on his own channel, who is clearly of great value and very capable of engaging interestingly, while he's dissing on ESFPs. I mean, I don't doubt that while she didn't voice it, Mackenzie was thinking about this, So, it's very plausible somebody would walk away from an engagement here without this issue of you being an ESFP being made explicit, assuming that or concluding that I'm ignoring evidence right in front of my face, TE polar. So TE polar is it's quite the thing to behold. If you want to watch somebody hilariously fail, go out with somebody with TE polar. And you will see them hilariously fail to open packages, hilariously fail to stick straws into things, hilariously fail to carry a cup of coffee without spilling it on themselves. You will see this day after day after day. And why are ISFJs and INFJs considered smarter than those of TI polar? Well, because the thing is, people use the word smart in two different ways. They use it to refer to doing things intelligently in an intelligent way, or they refer to a person being intelligent. So when I talk about somebody being smart and they're not basing it on any kind of achievements or anything, then we're talking usually about TI stuff. In other words, they sound smart. They've got good verbal skills. They've got good verbal reasoning skills, and they're creative, probably. Those are the people who are going to most display as smart. Now, if you say like, he's smart, he'd never get himself into that situation. Well, that's more of a TE kind of a smart, right? I'm sure he's accounted for all those vectors. He's smart like that. That's like my dad, I'm sure, is accounted for all those vectors. He accounts for vectors he has no possible reason to account for, so there's a decent chance he has accounted for all of his TE and E vectors, All right. So Mackenzie, being clumsy does not correlate inherently with just TE polar. It correlates in general with being metaphysical. So if you are engaged on a turn-based plane, you're always somewhat engaged in a real-time plane. In other words, my bodily processes continue going along as I'm sitting here, even though, as far as I'm concerned, that's just an unchanging field that I'm operating, assuming isn't going to change until it does, at which point I have to deal with it again, So being a metaphysical type or having intuition or TI or FE, one of the N's or the TI or FE, in the first two slots, especially both of them, correlates most to that kind of mindlessness. Now, in theory, as an ESTP, you're actually quite mindful. The thing is, you say you're the clumsiest person I know. And to me, I would say this is textbook example of bad self-reporting. And the reason that it's a textbook example of bad self-reporting is because in this instance, you're more aware of clumsiness than most people around you. And being TI tool function, you make note of your own failures all the time. You make much more note of every kind of failure that occurs. So you're paying attention to every instance of your own perceived clumsiness. It's what I would also call an example of the jumping fish phenomenon. If you have a fish that is always in the water, everyone comments on it. Well, give me examples. I want to hear examples of what you mean by clumsy. Because here's the thing, Mackenzie. This is a tricky issue for me because I know my daughter is also self-identifies as clumsy and has been told she's clumsy before. But she's not clumsy compared to me. You're going to have 3 car accidents since you can learn to drive. That doesn't necessarily mean you're clumsy. So that's not that. I wouldn't consider getting into a car crash an example of clumsiness. What I'm suggesting is that if you are a fish who jumps out of the water periodically and you're asked about your relationship with air, you're going to say, oh, I actually have a really great relationship with air. Those instances when I jump out of the water are really memorable to me. But of course, if I'm asking the question from a frame of reference that includes from fish to birds, then your relationship with air is very, very foreign compared to a bird's relationship with air, right? But because you're more likely to jump out of the water than other fish, perhaps, you go, oh yeah, I'm totally an air creature. I love air. I used to drop plates at your other job all the time. My boss had to take me to the emergency room. Okay, so, the thing is, clumsiness, put it this way. Clumsiness is an outcome that manifests from a couple of possible sources. So I would say that an intuitive clumsiness comes from being lost in their head all the time. Having accidents and stuff also correlates with high SE because they take more chances. So it's hard for me to know what to do with your self-reporting here on your own clumsiness, Mackenzie Hoffman. But I'm also find it's one of the weakest correlates I can find is that SE people are gonna not be clumsy. It is not necessarily the case that they it is not necessarily the case that ESTPs and ESFPs self-report as not being clumsy, and often enough they do self-report as being clumsy. And it's not necessarily the case that other people don't perceive them as clumsy even, because certainly there are people in Delilah's life who perceive her as clumsy. And yet, but intuitive clumsy is mindlessness clumsy. So what I mean by mindless is not in the present moment. There are two time passages, right? 2 ways that time pass. One is that your real-time experience. It's just real time. It's what we're having all the time. It's always going on. But concurrently, there is stuff that you can pay attention to that adheres to turn-based time. All this language stuff here. So I could say this. I could take longer or slower to say the same thing, or I could take faster to say the same thing, but I'd still be conveying the same meaning. And that's the takeaway. So the process is optimized when the meaning is conveyed without a lot of extra nonsense. That's what NI is, basically, is that value. But the thing is, if one is paying attention a lot or deeply to the turn-based realities of things, let's say if one is processing a bunch of TI things or generating a bunch of ideas with NE or something like that, then one is paying accordingly less attention to the real-time goings on. Now, it's very easy and safe and fine to not pay any attention to the real-time goings on when I'm sitting here on my couch, because reality isn't requiring me to be responsive to things happening in real time. It's a different story if I'm driving in the car. And if I am driving in the car and I'm making a video, which happens sometimes, then if something happens while I'm driving, like, oh, there's a car pulled in front of me and I'm swerving, then I have to stop talking to pay attention to that more actively. Being an action type means I can sustain a fair amount of SE while concurrently in my head. So I'm probably less clumsy and less subsumed by my attention on the turn-based plane than, say, an INFP or an INTP. Do I remember you, Ramesh? No, I don't think so. I mean, higher TI can correlate to higher mindfulness? No. Higher TI would correlate to less mindfulness, to more mindlessness. However, it really depends on whether it's paired with SE or NE. So SETI is the most mindful form of TI, or TIFSE, one of the two. ISTP, ESFP, those are the more mindful forms of TI. NETI is the most, or really INTPs, TINE is the most mindless form of being, which is to say, you're never in the present moment. You're always lost in your head. That's why they can never do anything. It's never necessary to take action because you've got indefinite amount of time to ideate in the conditional realm before making a decision. It's turn-based. It's still your turn. Reality should stay where it is until I'm done taking my turn, which is to say, thinking about what I might want to do. So it's like most kind of Easterny religions, and they talk about mindfulness, or your Eckhart Tolle type people, what they're really talking about is a state of NI receptiveness, paired with an SE frame of reference that says, be in the moment. Baseball is turn-based with real-time components. So it's like a sport like chess is genuinely turn-based. Baseball is like the least turn-based sport is soccer. Baseball is more turn-based than soccer, probably equivalent, more turn-based than football too. It's one of the most turn-based sports. So, like, the aspects that are not turn-based are just what happens when a ball is in play, which is very limited amount of time of baseball is the ball actually in play, you know? So which types does deep thinking come natural to, and which types are usually equipped for it? Well, depends what you mean by deep thinking. So it's like, if you mean good intuitive insights, then INFJs, INTPs, ENTPs. If you mean like successful application of correctness, then you're talking about ISTPs, ESTPs. That's a different kind of thinking. If you're talking about like comprehension of a complex system, then you're talking about INTJs, ENTJs. Team bowling where you both strike the same pens at the same time. That's a good idea. Andre Z. Hey, host Eric. Hey, Andre Z. Pissed off person. Pissed off person? That's a tough name to say. Pissed off person. Define intuitive insights. Well, I mean, the thing is, if you really are an SI Dom, then black, this isn't gonna necessarily particularly resonate with you, but Ramesh, I'm not avoiding your question. I literally just saw it after I saw you're avoiding your question. You're avoiding my question. I looked up and I said, "Oh, does he have a question?" You know, be sane. I'm not avoiding your question. So intuitive insights, I guess it's like, it's the thing, if you were an SI-DOM, it's the thing you hate it when people press you with. But Zaylen, here's the singular truth. And this is the constraining factor. You're not going to be able to understand things through man. You can't define NI insights. Just say that. Well, you're right. Okay. I didn't obey Zaylen Black's command to define intuitive insights because, I mean, we could just drop the word intuitive from it. Okay. Something is insightful when it's insightful. And it may link to intuition, but in the context what I was talking about, most importantly, is that insights are those notions which provide a meaningful and cascading understanding. So, in other words, there are plenty of occasions when people have commented in response to things I've said on a live stream or things I've said in a video that's very insightful, or that was a powerful insight, made a lot of things open up for me or whatever. But insights additionally have a quality of being surprising. That something that's insightful is a revelatory or a resolutional set of words that has not really been expressed or thought of before. Yeah, I do private typing sessions, totally. I charge $100. It's an hour face-to-face conversation. You can publish it, not publish it, record it, not record it, whatever you want. Check the description of any of my videos, and there's stuff about it. So the thing about insight is that it links directly to relevance. When somebody finds, and relevance means significance, contextual significance. So insight factors in both the object of analysis and the context to produce some sort of linkage that addresses, that is resolutional, or in other words, cascading in its understanding. What's any thinking versus NI thinking like? Well, extroverted intuition is a function that pairs with introverted sensing for a reason. So an extroverted intuition dominant person like myself, you could think of it as being extroverted intuition is a big circle, and introverted sensing is a little circle inside of it. And then you could think of the 2 3s as it's kind of like a little circle on top, which is FE, and a big circle underneath it, TI. So with any, that's the biggest circle. SI is subsumed entirely by it. FE is sort of hierarchically more important as an absolute value, but it's not subsuming TI. So that's the 2 3. So the thing is, how do you talk about extroverted intuition versus introverted intuition thinking, quote unquote? Well, remembering that introverted intuition is a receive function, and extroverted intuition is a pass function. So it's saying, like, well, how do you compare quarterback playing football to receiver playing football? Well, one throws, one catches. How's that for an answer? It's a pretty good answer, huh? My hypothesis is that have an inside joke only with yourself that is self-entertaining as FI behavior. I'm not sure. I'm hoping Eric will weigh in. Well, I mean, I guess it's FI behavior or something like that. Or maybe it's extrovert intuition. Like the other morning, I woke up laughing to the concept of three-way ketchup. And it was a great experience. Remembering that ESTPs and ENTPs have FI as an absolute value. Our absolute values are the two Fs and either the two S's or the two N's. So there's a lot of room for bridge building in that regard. The problem that FI tool users have with FI polar is no doubt the same that TI tool users have with TI polar. A good example of this is when Cloud came in here the other night, and he said, Eric, if you want me to go away forever, tell me and I will. I was like, what? Of course, I refused to engage with him on his grounds, on his tool function. I refused to tell him, I don't want you here. I refused to tell him, I don't like this or that, or engage him with why this makes me feel whatever. I think those conversations are a waste of time. The problem is not my feelings are being bothered. It's that it's like the artisan, the intellectual artisan within me is being appalled by this haphazard clusterfuckery of an ideation machine called an ESFP. So Octavia Silva said, attributing that joke to anything but any seems silly to me. Okay, but the thing is, I was laughing. I literally woke up actually physically laughing. So laughing is an emotion. There's got to be an emotion, right? There's no disputing that laughing is an emotion. And I would have enjoyed it in and of itself, as I do many times enjoy lots of things. Like I was watching regarding Zero starting life over in a new world. I was totally wrong about that series. That is crazy. That anime is just like, oh, the FI is just thick as fucking something very viscous. The joke, however, itself must be attributed to any fine. But the absolute value of enjoying laughing at the concept, like laughter is there for its own sake. It serves no other purpose. Crying is for its own sake. It serves no other purpose. So I've been crying my eyes out all day long watching this regarding Zero starting life in another world. It is such a FI heavy show. In other words, they get deeply into the emotional connections between Rim and the main character, and and also this other lady and the main character, and etc. So the thing is, I did, and once after I finished Dr. Stone, you suggested Dr. Stone was better than that other one. I watched all 24 episodes of Dr. Stone. It was pretty cool. The thing is, I ended up telling people about that because my FE is the absolute value that I'm conscious of. And the fact is, I spend a lot of time receiving mode. Because of Rachel, I've become much more of a receiver than I historically have been. I've integrated it more into my way of being, and it's helped me a lot, actually. So what does it mean to be in a receiving mode? It means you're watching anime or something. You're just enjoying this media product that's in front of you. You're not ideating about it. Now, it's also the case that sometimes when I'm watching things, depending on what I'm watching, that I lose paying attention to the thing I'm watching because I start thinking about one thing that they're saying in the thing I'm watching, and ideating about that in my own head, because I am, in that instance, my extroverted intuition will get the better of me. But, well, Pistofferson, this is an excellent question, and I want to address this. You're not putting, does that go against your nature? Remembering that, yes, basically. It's the thing that I inherently and instinctively know I need to incorporate more of is SI kind of knowing. So what does that kind of knowing mean? It means like I inherently understand I am healthiest and in some way and desire to have an outcome where I'm validating on SI grounds, which is to say I'm keeping shit cleaner than it is, cleaning up, keeping on top of taking the trash out, all the little SI things, keeping on top of my hygiene, brushing my teeth. Well, because everybody else was already gone, Tiny Man 66, you're the last person available, so we had to assign it to you. I'm sorry. Anyway, what I'm doing when I'm watching anime, therefore, is I'm getting kind of a substitute for SI, which is I'm getting NI and FI, which are absolute values, allowing me to be in a receive state and avoid the kind of receiving that it would be most healthy for me to engage with. No, I don't have an anime problem because I'm also getting shit tons of other things done. Last night, I spent at least 8 hours working on that track, which I'm still not done with. I decided the end's too thin and there's a couple little things. But anyway, it's not like the thing is, I have an odd situation, which is that my problem is not insufficient doing. This is not a common problem. Most people's problem is insufficient doing. My problem is insufficient NI constraint. So, I mean, I can guarantee you that it has to be the case, right? How many other people are there on YouTube who've put out, as many videos as I have, which is like got to be close to 6,000 now or something, with as few subscribers as I have, that aren't just like random spam, right? That it may be just me talking, but it's not like, I remember in the olden days before YouTube started having like standards that it would apply and shit, there was this channel that had like, they uploaded continually all day long these like 30-second videos of just like a sine wave with like a meh behind it just to see how many videos they could upload or something. I don't know. But as far as people genuinely making videos, spending their time, putting their identity into the video to some extent, there cannot possibly be anybody. Yeah, I have, Matt. In fact, I've got a link to it I'll share with you. I'll just leave it at that. I'll let you see what you think. It's unlisted currently, as I like to listen to things for a bit in the car, as well as on the various things I have in here. So I put a lot of energy into this, trying to mix it well and master it well, I keep battling against my own tendency to go, I'm tired of working on it, therefore it's done. which is just, it doesn't make any sense at all, It is not the case, I've determined, that things are complete when I'm tired of working on them. The first time I'm tired of working on them. Like, you may have to spend a whole week of days returning to this project, Eric. Maybe even 2 whole weeks returning to this project day after day if you want to get it done properly. I feel like the only channels matching yours in sheer volume are those bot channels that throw together stock 3D models in children's nursery rhymes and channel like 50 of them a day for ad revenue. No, I don't lash out at Rachel. It just doesn't happen. I mean, it happened one time, I can recall. I don't remember. I spoke harshly to her briefly. And I wouldn't even call it really lashing out. How did the Among Us video do in terms of views? I mean, not well. But the thing here, Sky Gear and Octavio, the point isn't that nobody else has as many videos as me. It's that nobody else has as many serious actual videos as me with as little channel growth. It's like, you got to really be, I mean, you got to be banging your head against the wall or just love doing this, you know? To be going for 7 years now almost, and to only have 6,000 subscribers doing it every day for 7 years. I mean, like almost every day, not every single day. There's some skips here and there, but at least like 20 days a month consistently for 7 years, and you only have 6,000 some subscribers. I challenge anybody to do that, to successfully pull that off. It's pretty hard. It's like people who are, in my opinion, vastly less interesting than me are massively more successful. Well, is there some particular parts of the vocals that you particularly take exception to? I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, but I guess I think certain parts of the vocal sound good and certain parts of them don't. I think by and large, the vocals work, but I kind of messed up recording Rachel's voice, which is why her vocals are more affected and stuff. And so I should really re-record them, because the way I recorded it originally was dumb, and I got a lot of noise, and I can't really get rid of all the noise. So we've talked about re-recording them. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I really like the way the production is coming together. So when I listen to it, I can hear everything. It doesn't sound overly compressed. Everything's loud and present. That's hard to accomplish for me, anyway. You know, it's another thing I've been struggling at for years and years and years. You know, and continuing to. And once again, my problem is not a failure to do enough. My problem is not a failure to produce enough finished works. It might be that the works I call finished aren't good enough. They aren't finished enough. They're you know, whatever. You can complain about them in lots of different ways. You can critique all the different ways you want. But the one thing you cannot critique me on is inadequate effort. Did you record and mix that all on your own? Yes, I did. But I think I need to do a couple more things to it. So it's like the end part is too thin. It originally had my vocals underneath hers, but it didn't sound very good, probably because it was a bad vocal take on my part, though. And then I also want to have the actual chords playing. The only guitar I have in that part are the leads, and I just let the organy bass part do the chording. I think I want to have the guitar chords in there too, or at least have them come in at some point to fill it up a bit. It's a bit thin. There's also, I want to take out 4 bars of the instrumental organ thing. I want to take out the 4 bars that don't have any kick underneath them, or kicks or snare or whatever it is underneath them, and then take out the first 2 kicks from that, so I accomplish the same thing in half the time. So I want to do that to it, and that's it. But like I said, I'm gonna probably record racial vocals too. The other thing is, I determined that for vocals anyway, my other mic works. I like the way I like it with this mic for the instruments, and the other mic with the vocals. The other mic seems to deliver more presence in vocals, even though this mic's got better frequency range. It seems in general, it's got like more frequency range. Oh, hello, pink telephone. Is that you? Oh no, it's my soul. Hold on, soul. I'll be right there, guys. It's my soul on the phone. I don't know. I was hoping it was either the soul food restaurant or Soul Train, but it turns out it's my soul. And apparently it's got a problem. It's lacking in something. Does it have inadequate soul juice? Does it need to take spiritual vitamin C to prevent soul scurvy? I can't go to your party. I got soul scurvy. Soul scurvy? Yeah, it's when your soul doesn't get enough metaphysical vitamin C. Pirates used to suffer from it all the time. Oh, wait, no. That was regular scurvy. Regular scurvy. My favorite kind of scurvy. Don't be a landlubber. You'll never get respect on naval vessels that way. Don't be a tenderfoot. Indians will laugh at you behind your back. Don't be a country bumpkin if you're visiting an urban area, or you may be treated as a rube. Right? So this is what I want to express to everybody. Things not to be, okay? Don't be a landlubber. Don't be a tenderfoot. Don't be don't be an underfooter. That's somebody who's always underfoot. When TF will my COVID wear off? Sleeping all day is getting in. Oh, you have COVID? Really? Is it cool? Make you feel like a badass? Yeah, it's hip having COVID nowadays. It used to be uncool, but now it's like the hot new trend. Somebody get me some COVID so I can be like the cool kids. Can you be a shrub? Well, you and I should open a shrubbery fan club ourselves. We'll call it Utter Eric's Shrubbery Fan Club. Or we could call it Eric Self's or Host Self's Shrubbery Fan Club. Do I believe there's an alien base on the dark side of the sun? The sun doesn't have a dark side. It's bright all the way around. You're in quarantine because you've been exposed. It's been heavenly. What's lacking vision? The soul juice industry? It's because they need to diversify into 3-way catch-up. What do you think's on the dark side of the sun? It's a great question. I'm looking forward to the day when we go visit the dark side of the sun, though. That'll be a challenge. What do I feel in my heart? Tenderness. What does it convey to me? Moisture. And what does the moisture do? It rusts my insides. Is the moon made out of cheese or rock? Neither. It's made out of moon meat. It's freezing cold over there, though. I'll tell you, there's a problem. But the reason nobody goes to the dark side of the earth is because it's freezing cold. It's like there's never any sunlight. The only things that live there are snow monsters. NASA equals not a serious alias. Never a straight answer. I think it means the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Pretty sure. 218 to 240. Miss the ear run. No, I appreciate your feedback. Let's see where that is.
Brooding here, what is up with dancing on? When I feel a bit inside my head. Feel sad, so sad for me. Sad for him unhappily and I go home.
Right. Well, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. That's what I was saying about the end part sounding thin. And I was pretty happy with that master until I listened to it some more yesterday, just when I was taking a bath on the phone, just on the phone speakers. So, and you could, the phone, obviously, the speakers don't sustain much bass or bottom mids, and it really sounded thin. And then listening to it after on other speakers, I realized, oh no, I need to. Don't rush yourself, Eric. Take your time and do it right. Do a good job. I'm always fucking putting stuff out there before it's ready. Sometimes I feel society is milking your soul with its expectations, and the tit thereof shall runneth dry. I believe you mean the teat. Shrubberies. Those of us who like shrubs, well, we don't get a lot of recognition in the mainstream media, but we deserve it. I'm part shrub. My mother was a oleander bush. My father was a human. That's why I have pink flowers on me during certain parts of the year. Can't follow no vision. Can't follow no mind. Can't listen to no words now. Gonna pay them no mind. Don't wanna follow me no. Gonna make them wrong. Apparently, from what I understand, pink telephone, it is the male equivalent of a vagina in a gay relationship, namely a butt vagina. Oh, I know what you said. And you know what you said too. And we both know that you were wrong. You meant to say teach. The other thing is that I'm really concerned about Harry Balzac is he misspelled boy. He spelled B-O-I. And, well, somebody explained it to me the other day. I didn't know what it was. I thought he's saying bussy, like, you know, somebody who's really into bussing tables, or a city that has too much of its public transportation system linked to buses and too little to subways and trains. That would make sense, you know. Right, there's Debussy, the piano composer. Tiny Man 66, that is so gross and yet hilarious. I'm on my period, so this is brown, bad tasting goo coming out. Ew, you're having a vaginal blood sploosh splash party. Everybody, welcome to my vaginal blood sploosh splash party tonight. Dive on in, it's gonna be a sploosh splash party, all right? So anyway, welcome to the vaginal blood sploosh splash party. That's definitely one of the grossest things I've ever heard anybody say. but hilarious because of the surprise. Do I like cheese on my pizza? It ain't pizza if it's not built on a foundation of sauce and cheese. And what goes on top of the cheese is the question. Okay, cheese is part of the basic foundation of a pizza. Just like you can't call your thing a boat if it doesn't float on water. If it, if it has holes in it, it's designed to be porous. Oh yeah, well, everyone's welcome to the vaginal blood sploosh splash party. Everybody enjoys the fun times. Everyone enjoys playing Marco Polo at the vaginal blood sploosh splash party. It's you talk about a challenging game of Marco Polo. You try finding somebody or hiding from somebody when your eyes are filled with vaginal blood. Terrible. Well, see, the thing is, referring to it as a bussy is a misnomer because that hole is designed to expel things, not receive them. Okay? It's not a two-way hole. The hole in the front of a girl, that's a two-way hole. Things come out of it every once in a while. But it's more well-suited for things to go inside of it, primarily. That's why women make better drug dealers. Look, the whole point is any secretion or seepage related topic is topical at this point. It's relevant. I know the prostate's in there. I'm not saying sometimes you don't gotta violate the rule to keep your prostate healthy. Oh no, that's definitely that's a two-way hole. It's definitely a two-way hole. They eat with it and they talk with it. That's two ways. It's a judging orifice. 5 points for that one, Katie. Hilarious. So tonight we're having a combination meeting of the Vaginal Blood Sploosh Splash Party Events Committee and Anal Wreckage Anonymous. We're just going to combine the two meetings since I'm on the board of both of them. So I believe Pistofferson was saying that they want to have Food Cube cater the Vaginal Blood Sploosh Splash Party. I'm not sure if Food Cube does catering yet, but if they do, that's not a bad idea. Well, Harry Balzac, sounds like you've got good taste in media. Octavio Silva, no, we're not threatening violence. That's not how you get people to like you. We've talked about this before. What deity are you, Eric? If I had to pick a dominion or something, like, I was which area of godly dominion would you like to have jurisdiction over is probably a better question. Okay, I stand corrected, Octavia Silva. Which area of godly dominion would I like to have jurisdiction over? I'm going to say I'll be the god of good business ideas. And I can just declare an idea, a good business idea, and it'll be successful. So all of my business ideas can be successful this way. That way I can really open more than just condiments. A drive-through you go to after you go through your initial drive-through to get better condiments than the free ones that they give you with the original drive-through. This is not well, Harry Balzac, you see, there's a clear and bright but very thin line between deft and stupid. Unfortunately, you fall on the wrong side of that line, and that's why you've gotten hidden. Warzone, let's catch a dub. I tell you what I will do right now. I'm going to do this for everybody out there. This is part of my duty, not just here at Talking Advanced People, but also as the archpastor of Deft, not deaf, Deft, DEFT. It's the opposite of daft. Another word for deft might be the stuff that preceded it. That's the difference. So you got to, it's like a correct understanding of Harry Balzac is he thought it was safe at that moment to do his bullshit as long as he conformed to this norm that we set up. But because he had already revealed to me that he was here primarily to shit on things, and has on a number of occasions, well, he has to sustain who he is, not just what he says. And so it's like meow out of meow's mouth is different than meow out of meow's mouth. You're too cute to be banned. Nobody's cute when they're swimming in vaginal blood, Tiny Man 66. Deft touch like a clever bunt in baseball. Correct. Yes, a deft touch. George Foreman got banned, Dimitri K. Yeah, my bite monkey senses were tingling. Exactly. It's a good way to put it, Octavia. So that way I don't have to give you all this justification. I don't typically think of NI as being adequate justification for things, but sometimes that's really the simple. That's the basic answer. Because NI, that's why. No, I don't run the Red River. I take a break. I say, okay, the front hole's closed. I don't use the back hole ever at all. I leave top hole. I'm easily grossed out and easily prone to gagging and stuff. So I don't like any poop coming out of anything or blood coming out of anything. Just basically, I want to avoid all poop and blood and pee. I want to avoid those things completely, and vomit. Just keep those things away from me. They're all gross. Getting spit on my dick's fine though. For some reason that doesn't bother me. Trump's Twitter got suspended. That fucking idiot. Talk about no boogers either. Trump is just, he's so dumb that he genuinely believes himself to be a very stable genius. Talk about Dunning-Kruger. No. I'm not into fucking, I'm perfectly fine with just regular old, not gross, not porny kind of, like, as I've expressed before, Pistofferson. The reality about it is this. It's like when I'm having the sexual intercourses, I think in the middle of that, I'm going to come on her face or something. But then I never actually do because I realize at the last second, no, that'll be gross. And I shoot it on her belly or tits or something instead. It's pixel phone. People make a big deal out of it for various reasons, but it's it's like it's good to be in a relationship, so you don't have to think about it at all. That's about all there's to say about sex. If you're in a relationship and you're having, you're on the same page about sex. In other words, you want to have the same amount of it approximately, and you like having sex with each other, then you don't have to think about it anymore because you already got you've already got number 3 accounted for. You got to go number 1 in life sometimes. As you get older, you have to go number 1 ever more frequently. You got to go number 2 approximately once a day, sometimes more. Hello? Somebody just making some sort of threat, saying they're going to come to my house, and I just hung up on them. So, dumb people resort, they always boil down to the same thing, they can't engage with another human being as a human being, and they want to try to control you with their threats and nonsense. I didn't even hear the threat. It's just like, and I just fucking hung up on his ass, All I got to hear was, I'm going to come to your house, and if you don't something, I'm going to come to your house. I don't even know what they want me to do. So they're welcome to call back if they'd like. Your phone number's right here. Because I could call you back. You're in Maryland. I have no idea who it is. Could be Harry Balzac. That's quite a trip from Maryland, though. Maybe I should give out your phone number. We should all call you and talk to you. Hey, buddy, you sounded a little bit angry. You okay now? You okay, Tiger? Hey, Eric, I was watching your NI's Bully INFP, and that was interesting. I was wondering if your thoughts have changed or more insight since then, considering you have a better relationship with FI. I don't remember what I said in that video exactly, but I think that INTPs and INFPs both are resistant to intuition for its own sake, frankly, be it tool function, NE, or 6-slot NI. They're both instrumental values. You can see it in Horse Mumbler. When I spend too much time just joking around and just playing around with extroverted intuition or introverted intuition, even, it's like, okay, you're starting to annoy me, Eric. Well, I mean, I can kind of get that, the equivalency there, because when I watch an INTP's video on cognitive functions, I typically find it, if they're a typical INTP, I'll typically find it very dull and way too much TI for its own sake, and not enough concern about concision or entertainment or anything like that. I mean, FI DOMs can be infuriating, NI DOMs probably is true more for INFPs, are going to be more infuriating to INTJs and or INFJs than are ISFPs, because ISFPs have NI as an absolute value as well. You bored each other more than anything? That makes sense. So it's like, I wonder what goes through somebody's head, right? When they think, I'm going to call this guy and threaten him. Are they thinking that they're going to intimidate me? Or are they thinking they're going to actually impact my behavior in some way? I mean, it's a failure to recognize which kind of arguments work and which ones don't, you know? It's like you lose all legitimacy like that. And, you know, you just drive home the point that you've been crushed. You feel defeated, humiliated, you know? And so you're striking out. No, this person was angry. This person was very angry. So who knows? Idiots are idiots. You know, I piss idiots off consistently. If you are somebody who has some insecurities about your own intellectual robustness, either because you excessively care about it when you shouldn't because it's not your ways, or because you don't really have enough faith in your own intellectual abilities yet because you're young, and NTPs take a while to have real faith, at least the NTPs do, or for a variety of other reasons, then there's a decent chance you're going to hate me. If you're an ESFP and you encounter me, you're going to hate me. And like both Prince and Marty made these sort of like vague threats at me. You don't know who you fucked with, kind of thing, you know? It's like, so what? Are you saying you're going to come be engaged in some sort of criminal violence against me? If that's the case, how can you possibly justify that? I mean, what have I done to justify that? So it's like, and like the problem with that line of talk and thinking in general is, of course, what if they were to actually do it and show up here? Well, there's no guarantee they'd succeed in whatever they were attempting to do. There's a decent chance that they wouldn't succeed at all, and that they'd suffer some sort of consequences for it. So it's like, the thing is, it'll always be the case that if you're a public figure and you are honest, and speak the truth and care and try to be a good person, that there will be people who despise you. The only way to avoid it is by not saying anything, by having no robustness to you at all. Then maybe you can avoid being offensive to somebody. But haters gonna hate, and if they really want to successfully hate me, the problem that they have is the only way to get me is to commit a crime against me. I mean, that's pretty tough, right? It's like Becky tried to do what bad people always try to do. Bad people think you must be like me, and you've got a bunch of secret shame that you're hiding. So all I need to do is find out what that is and expose it. Well, even though all the evidence would point to any bad person that I'm not like that. I don't have this secret shame that you can expose to get to me. Well, Becky believes that must be the case anyway. So she emailed a bunch of to my dad, threatened to sue my dad. That's proof of how there's no way to get me except by committing a crime against me. Or, sinking to violence. I didn't even know he followed. I mean, I didn't watch his follow-ups or anything. I don't care about the guy. It's like, I didn't watch Prince's video either. It's just the worst thing about people who are unusually dumb, which is a fair thing to call both Marty and Prince, is unusually dumb. The problem with them is that their time, energy, intellect, wisdom, decency, vampires. They naturally, any decent human being is going to say, hey, that's not correct. That's bullshit. But don't let them trap you. It's a waste of time. They genuinely cannot learn. Do I experience fear? Sure, everybody experiences fear. But I'm not going to, I don't let fear frame my life. So I don't choose not to do something because it might have risk associated with it. If the risks are that I might incur illegitimate behavior on by other people, well, I'm not gonna let that constrain me. Obviously, I don't negotiate with terrorists, and I don't get influenced by them. I don't get intimidated by them. You want to make stupid threats? You're already engaged in a crime and threatening me. It's not protected speech, but regardless, I'm not impressed. I'm totally unimpressed. A dog can do that. A dog can snarl at me and bark at me and potentially bite me. It doesn't impress me if you're a human being and you go, I can be a dog. That doesn't impress me. Doesn't intimidate me. Really? He put together a compilation of clips of me, huh? Interesting. Yeah, Octavia Silva, I know, right? I can't believe how much genuine rage this meager channel inspires. That's my impact, right? It's not like I have shit tons of subscribers and make money or anything, but I do piss a lot of people off, even though what I'm saying is correct and legitimate. That's, that's the thing. Why do I piss people off? Because people don't like to have correctness and legitimacy prioritized in general because they don't expect themselves to prioritize those things. If their own positions they ascribe to aren't derived according to that kind of metric, then they're not going to be held to. They're not going to want to be held to it. I mean, that's the thing. Expose me. It's like I already knew and used the M&M strategy in life before I ever saw it in 8 Mile. The M&M strategy is this. Well, Octavio, I can pretty much guarantee you that if I had 5 million subscribers, at least 6,000 of them would have an intensive session with it. And the thing is, I don't think that 6,000 people have an intensive session with this channel. I think about 100 people do. You are white, you're a bum. You live in a trailer with my mom, right? Yeah, exactly. The M&M strategy. I am white. I am a fucking bum. I do live in a trailer with my mom. You did fuck my girl. I'm still standing here screaming, fuck the free world. I know. That's the problem. If you prioritize the legitimacy or correctness metrics without adequate FE turd polish, then you'll get a lot of angry response. The thing that one guy in Discord was so obviously annoyed by and taking so much exception to was the claim I made about myself being the beginning and end of cognitive functions, which was a ridiculous thing for me to say, but contextually was basically saying in that video, no, I don't think that we can correctly be more FE inclusive here. I don't think we can say, well, in Eric Thor's system, you're yeah, and it's just yes, you're yeah. And I think that to the extent that these systems, quote unquote, disagree with each other, it is because all of them except one are wrong. Well, because impact is not utility. So, like, you can see what happens when I don't think Marty's an ENFP. I think he's an ESFP. ENFPs do well, whatever. Doesn't matter. The point is that's the point I was trying to make. And so I was somewhat hyperbolic in my claims there about myself as a shorthand way of saying I am making the claim that my understanding is exclusively correct. And that's what drives a lot of people crazy. Because they just can't believe that I would have the arrogance or gall to make such a claim. And so it's like, I get that. I mean, it's only possible that one person making that claim could be right. So the likelihood of it being me is low, but in this case, it's 100%. Well, the fact that, Let's see what we got here. Oh, yeah. Look how young I look in that picture. I'm so pretty. It's the second night when you start to feel strange and you're wondering if the range is on. Sending sparks to soar in the kitchen sky. An actual night. Is there no top to the top up above the shelves? So Eric Thor is hard to watch. Eric Thor is boring. Eric Thor is dark above the shelves. Or she stores the chai above the sleeping forms of vivid mind figurines. If you can assign a numeric type value to a sentence, then you can use fast Fourier analysis to automatically determine the weight of the cognitive functions for a text. No, I agree with you that that's the most promising approach to sort of mechanizing cognitive function analysis. Which is to say, when I'm watching these anime shows that I've been watching, it's very easy to articulate the values that they're upholding, and how, like, obviously Dr. Stone is upholding TE values. It's based on the idea of like a civilization style game, as he rebuilds civilization from the ground up after everybody gets turned into stone. So, and it's so much based on that concept. It's like Minecraft plus civilization, that as they attain certain technology goals, I mean, I agree that Harry from CPT he produces generally high quality stuff if you're looking for specifically insight. Namely, he seems quite insightful about people and how they link to their functions and stuff. The thing is, the difference between being very insightful and being correct. So the thing is, to the extent that he avoids areas where he's having to parse out stuff that's very TI heavy, then he's going to avoid some of the mistakes that some of the other people might be making. He's an INFJ, so he's most likely to, he's the type that's most likely to get through a cognitive function video, say some insightful things, and not run afoul of my wrongness meter. I mean, I could. Right, well, they take it as an ontological attack. Like, if I'm saying you're wrong, I'm attacking who you are. Well, the thing is, yeah, Michael Pierce's TI is a little bit more on display. Characters that are good examples of ISTPs, I mean, they're quite common in anime. ISTPs. There's the super talented other pitcher in Ace of the Diamond. There's the super talented setter in Haikyuu. Those are both ISTPs. There's what's the name? The main character from Dr. Stone is an ISTP. High Q setter, the super talented guy who does it super ultra quick with the red-haired guy. He was known as King of the Court in his middle school until his whole team, Kageyama, yeah, I think that's his name. I don't remember his name. Kageyama, I think, is from a different cartoon, actually. I don't remember his name, but the black-haired guy with, here's an INFJ in Haikyuu. The setter for that Tokyo team starts with N. Well, that's not a correct typing of that. Eric Spacey and Michael Pierce, the only 3 typology white tears I find watchable. I mean, the thing is, Oliver Linehan, the reality is, for everybody here, although we do talk a lot of cognitive functions, you're not really watching me as a typology YouTuber. You're watching me as a live streamer. So, okay, well, I would agree, Sky Gear, that the main character from Dr. Stone is an ISTP ESTP combo with all the best qualities of both. Spacey is my protege, so to speak. He's my part of my typology coaching legacy. So I've got quite a successful debate coaching legacy. My former assistant coaches have gone on to do amazing things. So I have a much smaller typology legacy, in part because the nature of typology, the nature of YouTube typology community is one that it really gives you, you have to take a stand on this issue, right? I've learned that I have to take a stand on this issue. I can't to not explicitly express the reality that when you are explaining something that's real, one explanation is correct and the others are wrong, and to not ascribe to my own understanding of it correctness would be disingenuous in the worst possible way. Oh, I guess the other person who's in the process of becoming part of my typology legacy is Isaiah Root. He's my helper person right now. When Isaiah Root ceases to be a helper person, maybe somebody else can be a helper person. Well, Kageyama is incredibly focused on one thing and one thing only. Actually, you know what? He did badly in school. No, I accept that he's not an ISTP. He's probably an ISFP then. I don't think he's an ISTJ. There's nothing about him that says ISTJ to me. Just because he's... Well, okay. I guess. Now, but see, ISTJs aren't that driven. It's much more of a STP thing, or an SFP thing. Naturally very athletically gifted, and he chooses to make his precious volleyball not something more INTJ-ish, right? There's no systems analysis in his game either, really. It's what do you mean if you have a horrible memory? Well, it depends what you mean by you have a horrible memory. So, do you mean that, like, depending on the context, you would say I have an amazing memory or a terrible memory? If you made an argument 6 months ago and today you make a contradictory argument, there's a decent chance I'll remember that you made. Didn't you say 6 months ago? But at the same time, if I did a full typing session with you a week ago, I may have no recollection of who you are when I see you again. So that's because it's just a matter of what kind of data your SI is retaining and why. So in my case, the dominant NE is like a big circle, right? And inside of that is a little circle of SI. SI is subsumed by NE. It's serving NE's bidding. And NE is saying, these are the things that are important to keep track of. And the stuff that's most natively kept track of by SI, that shit doesn't matter. Of course, it does matter. And I'm constantly sort of struggling with myself to manage my physical resources. The amount of energy I have before I have to sleep again, the amount of energy I have before I have to eat again, and trying to not have problems with that while concurrently paying as little attention to that as possible. Yeah, well, that's because you gotta auto put up, like you're gonna say, I wanna auto populate my videos with some shit. You gotta put something there. And that seems like the most sensible thing to auto populate it with. The problem is, I would love to be known as a channel that's basically mostly interesting words and about a variety of things, with some other stuff too, like music or whatever. But of course, that's too broad. That's not a thing that people understand. To the extent that I understand the need to box myself, to make myself into something that people already get what it is if I want them to access it. I would say I would prefer to be known as sort of like a podcaster. But of course, cognitive functions have come to define who I am to a large degree. Not just in terms of other people's perceptions, but in terms of my own experience of being. It's hard for me to go through the world and not notice how much my day-to-day experience is impacted by the empowered frames of reference that cognitive functions have allowed me to develop. I just interpret everything much more purposefully as a consequence. Now it's not just that there's something wrong with this person. It's, oh, okay, we have conflicting values here on meow, and it's implicit to our attentional habits, and there's nothing really to be done about it, you know? Or maybe there is. I find myself surprisingly bad at using what I know about ESTJs to meaningfully change my relationship with my father at all. No. What I'm saying, Octavia Silva, is not that I would switch my entire channel to a new topic without losing. If I could do that, would I do that? I would continue doing what I'm doing now, except I would just probably be asked more questions about things other than typology. I like to engage with the chat. I like to read what they say and respond to it on point. So the thing is, basically what I'm saying is, it would be nice if a higher percentage of people were interested in asking questions about philosophy or politics or world events or whatever. Or listening to me play songs. I know I have to balance all of those things to some extent, because any of them to excess is going to bug people. And nobody, because I am so sort of haphazard, probably I can't exclusively do anything at this point without alienating some section of my viewing audience. Although I will agree that I have this. I mean, it's just the counter value TE is astonishing. It's a crazy thing to have in 6 slot counter valued. Sky Gary says, Eric, would you enjoy being asked questions about the ontological degradation inflicted on children by modern day child media like Coco Melon? Do you think we should instead have children listen to Nietzsche? I don't know what Coco Melon is. I don't have a problem with the way that media engages with children. I think that, well, I think that in America we're a little too fussy about what is acceptable in a kids show. For example, I don't know black-haired guy from the cat team. I don't know that one. I don't know who you're referring to. So, like, I don't think I watched a cartoon the other day. It was on TV. I don't remember the context when I saw it on TV briefly, and it was just like I wasn't even watching. It was just on for a little while, and what it did was like the bad guys were sort of team rocketed away, like we're off team rocket blasting up to space. The bad guys were doing that as their airship crashed or something. And then before they cut away from the scene, they showed it from a distance. They showed that you could hear all the characters that were on that thing that had crashed saying, "We're okay." Like, it bugs me when they don't allow death and violence to have a role in where they should. So, for example, it bugs me in Dr. Stone that Dr. Stone's village that he's defending against the barbarians who are trying to conquer it, that they don't ever kill anybody, but the barbarians will kill each other. So it's like, it's the barbarians accidentally got trapped in this poison gas area, whereas the Kingdom of Science had these Stone Age style gas masks that they were using. And then all four of the bad guys were stuck up in the tree. And while the good guys were kind of responsible for the bad guys going there, it was only because the bad guys were chasing the good guy's kid character. And then the bad guys are up in the tree. The good guys walk away and leave them there and saying, okay, well, you're going to be up there for a long time before you're confident that it's safe to come down now. You see that the poison gas kills things so quickly because, like, the squirrel came out and died. Well, then, of course, two of the bad guys, the boss bad guys, pushed the other bad guys down into the poison gas and killed them. So it's not like the show even eliminated death from the equation. It just never lets the good guys use violence to kill people, but they still lets them use violence to defend themselves, but they never actually kill anybody. So I don't like that kind of shit that where the media is being constrained by some norm that's arbitrary, basically. I don't like that. And on the other hand, you get this show like, you want to talk about fucking show that went downhill so fast, I was stunned what happened to it. I was watching this show, Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba, and the first few episodes of it were great. I was just like, wow, that's amazing. And then, but the last couple of episodes, it shifts emotional gears from first gear to fifth gear and back again with no gears in between. It's like going 70 on the freeway and downshifts to first gear. So they'll have this incredibly dark scene of domestic violence and death and stuff, and then immediately follow it with a scene of this one character who's supposed to be a scaredy cat doing dumb Japanese physical clowning humor. And it's just like, okay, who is making this show? Because the humor parts of it are made for kids, as far as I can tell. But the actual action parts of it are incredibly dark and violent. And it's just like, it's so schizophrenic at this point, I can't even fucking watch the thing. I'm just like, what is going on here? In contrast, regarding Zero Starting Life in Another World, it turned out to be much better than I initially thought. I did get some episodes into Boruto, but I'm basically bored by it because it's just kind of the same thing as Naruto. the younger generation. I wish I'm desperate for the third season of Fire Force to come out. Noblesse is good. Noblesse, or however you pronounce it, it's good. I've got an episode of that waiting for me, which is nice. Avatar: The Last Airbender, that won't go over their heads. I mean, kids watch what they want to watch. Same thing as adults. Everybody talks about, like, oh, I don't like the way these people are able to get what they want. Nah, it's bad for them. And why don't people think that about themselves? I don't like the fact that I'm able to watch all this YouTube. It's not good for me. Why don't people ever say that? Let's talk about other people's things that they don't like. Well, anywho, animated logical positivism lectures. That's the crazy thing, isn't it, Skygear, though? Is that at the end of the day, if you have a INTP kid, you can't stop them from doing that shit. And if you got an ESFP kid, no matter how much you force them to do that shit, they're never going to learn to think. You know, they're always going to learn to, everything in life is going to tell them the same thing. It's going to be through the same frame. This is somehow another example of how the map is unreliable and we should shit on it. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to go now. I'm tired. I want to watch some more anime and go to bed. Good night, sweet children. Remember, if you're good, Santa will bring you 40 virgins for Christmas. And as long as you don't ever feed them anything that's not kosher, they'll remain virgins no matter how much you hump them. The end.